Hello, this is Angela with Parco's Permaculture. I am up in Vancouver, Washington today. I am here for another purpose, but I want to just take a couple of minutes and rant because there is something that keeps coming up repeatedly in my life and in my community, and I think in popular culture. And I just want to rant for a second. Permaculture is about sustainable, effective design, right? It's not hippie gardening. It's not, about living off grid and being a prepper. It's about sustainability and regenerative living, right? Designing the way that we have our agricultural systems, our community systems, our roads, our infrastructure, and every part of life as a way that optimizes sustainability, not as a way that optimizes profit or strokes our ego. And I think when we look at maximizing profit and we look at flattering our own egos, we find that our sustainability is dramatically reduced. We find that our resiliency is undercut severely. We prioritize profit and we seek to advertise in a way that has that kind of psychological appeal that puts profit above all, corporate profit above all. We find that sustainability is left by the wayside. And something I keep seeing that is such a good illustration of this is actually what I'm parked right next to here. That is shading my car, this giant hulking beast behind me. So Vancouver, Washington is just north of Portland. We used to live here 20 years ago. And you'd say like, oh, it's just a couple of miles away. I'm 10 minutes from my house in Portland. It is like a whole other culture here in Vancouver. It is just very, very different politically and socially. And I find the minute you cross the border, you are inundated with a significant proportion of gigantic, jacked up, extended cab trucks. Not that we don't have those in Portland. In fact, I had an aggressive, giant souped up white pickup truck interaction walking my dog the other night. Some dude racing through my neighborhood who all my family did was turn and look at him to be like, dude, it's 20 miles an hour through here. And, there are kids out on scooters, kids on bikes, little old ladies walking their dogs. There is no reason to speed like that through our community. We didn't say anything, just turned and looked. He slammed on his brakes, screeched his car backward to roll down his window and scream at us, which may not have been my best moment because I certainly screamed back at him. For those of you that don't know, my grandmother was, a pedestrian that was struck and killed by a car. And I lost the ability to have a relationship with her. And I have a lot of baggage around unsafe driving, particularly big fat monster trucks with a very limited visibility out of their truck. I posted a meme the other day on my Facebook page about it, about how crappy the visibility is from one of these giant trucks, especially when it comes to being able to see children below this enormous lifted, jacked hood, right? And what a risk that is going forward and backward to our kids, but to anybody. And so, I bring my own baggage to the table. I have a very hair trigger when it comes to people driving unsafely in our neighborhood or in any area where, there's a risk to pedestrians. And when we look at permaculture design, what can we do to design our cars and our traffic patterns in a way that prioritizes livable, walkable communities, that designs on human scale? I've talked in the past about designing on human scale instead of car scale. What can we do to design on human scale so that we have reduced need for petroleum products, reduced waste, and increased safety, right? And I think it's such a bigger question than just the actual physical design, than the actual engineering of our streets and roads and our vehicles. While that is important, I posted another meme showing like how pickup trucks are designed and sold in much of Asia versus in the US, and that contrast between the two of you can get the job done without needing to have this massive truck that I think is a reflection of the fragility of the ego of a lot of the folks who are driving it. You're probably going to come at me in the comments, and that's totally okay. But our car manufacturers, again, I spoke at the beginning of this video, designing for profit and ego flattery instead of functionality and sustainability. When we are having these big souped up monster trucks, like, you know, as big and massive and get you a Hemi and all of that, that's not about moving things around, right? We can see that in other cultures, they have trucks that are perfectly serviceable and can deliver the same volume of material without needing to be designed that way. When I come up here to Vancouver, it's just in my face. The volume of these kind of trucks is dramatically increased up here. And, you know, I think about permaculture design, when we're looking at the ways that we stack our functions and we stack our layers in together, we can't just look at the engineering. We have to look at the social aspect of it. Why is it that these trucks are so appealing to the American consumer, right? These massive, massive monster trucks. There's one parked right here. Why that is such an appealing advertising gimmick, why it works for our mega car corporations to build these huge trucks, and why Americans just scarf them up, even though they're gas guzzlers. They're very expensive. And the reality is most folks are not using them for the purpose for which they're designed. They use them very rarely. I found having a minivan, I can haul basically anything, not this, not my new minivan, but my old junker one. I can haul anything I want if I just take the seats out. And there are very few instances in which I would need a big pickup truck. So what is the social reason behind the need for these big trucks? And also like the aggressive nature of the folks who drive those trucks. Not everybody, not painting with a broad brush here, but I think, you know, I would challenge you to tell me that there's someone in America who's not had multiple interactions with very aggressive and road ragey giant pickup trucks. Again, I think that's perhaps a reflection of fragility of egos, the loneliness, sadness, anger, the fact that we don't let our boys feel anything but rage or lust. And I think that's a reflection in all that. It's all tied in together. When we're looking at survivability of car crashes, pedestrian versus truck, and I will say, by the way, I'll link down below, in Portland, we've had a lot of pedestrian deaths. There have been 2 pedestrian deaths right near my house in the last 6 months, right by the high school. Let's look at the data here. Survivability rate between a car and a pedestrian. For the pedestrian, at 20 miles an hour, you have a 95% chance of survivability. At 30 miles an hour, it drops down to 55%. At 40 miles an hour, it drops to 15%. There's a reason speed limits exist. And when I see these giant trucks where the survivability goes way down, think about the mass of the vehicle, think about the size and impact of that vehicle. The survivability goes down for SUVs and these really big pickup trucks. And it goes down even further when you look at big box trucks and semis. Speed is also a factor. So when you're looking at an angry driver in a big truck speeding through a neighborhood, because again, just ranting here, just my own speculation, that driver, he has that big pickup truck as a way to overcompensate. And then he feels the need to speed through a residential area to impress people, or because he's angry behind the wheel. The risk to our pedestrians and our community goes way up. So I don't know where I'm going with this rant other than to say that I wish everything had permaculture design in it instead of profit, and instead of, you know, flattering our egos and savvy advertising. How different would our communities be? How much safer, how much more resilient, you know, how much more beautiful and sustainable would they be if we designed on human scale, if we designed for safety and resilience instead of designing on automobile scale and for ego and corporate profit? So I'm going to get on to my meeting here, but if you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them down below, and I will link to some resources as well. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back really soon because I'm here for an exciting reason, and I'll be sharing that soon. Thanks.